My name is Justin. I'm a journalist from South Africa and I work across Africa, and I work as a strategist on digital and data journalism for Google and for the International Centre for Journalists. Data journalism is very new in Africa, like it is everywhere across the world. But because there's very little data available, some of these projects have had a very big impact in Africa, changing the way that governments deliver services, changing some laws, and in some cases even sending people to jail. Data journalism is just that the tools have become more powerful, so we're able to have far greater impacts than we had in the past. Some of the things that we're seeing that are happening that are very exciting and that potentially could be replicated in Latin America are the opening up of both governments as well as other large societal forces, things like universities, like NGOs, where suddenly all of the deep information that is hidden inside these organizations is now available for us to start contextualizing our reporting. This data enables you to mine down to say how a government decision impacts on an individual's life regardless of where they live, how it impacts on the street that they live in, the community they live in, the school that their children go to. So it means that we can make the news very, very personal. So in Kenya, where some of the earlier experiments took place in Africa, we did a boot camp, which is where we train journalists with computer programmers how to use some of these new tools. We had a young rural journalist from an area in the north of Kenya, which is very, very rural, very tribal, and very poor. And she told us that young girls there always did very well at school. They were at the top of their class at school until the ages of 10 or 11. And then suddenly they stopped coming to school. They disappeared. So we went and we looked at the school records that had been opened up by the Department of Education. And we saw that the statistics proved that the girls did very well in the examinations. And then round about the ages of 11 to 12, they simply disappeared from the official record. For years, the government had just been saying that this was tribal. Tribal people take the girls out of school when they start becoming strong enough to work in the field. So it's something that society mustn't change. But we didn't want to accept that. So this young journalist started looking at the other statistics. And she thought that it might be because people were getting sick. So she started looking at water infrastructure, she looked at cholera, all the statistics that came from the Department of Health and other places. And she didn't see a correlation. But then she started looking at infrastructure, and she noticed that all the schools where these girls disappeared from were the schools that did not have sanitary facilities, toilets. And then she started asking what could be the reason for that. Now the data itself is simply a way of focusing or sharpening your questioning. It doesn't always give you the exact answers. So she then went into the field, and using this information that she had found, she started asking questions. And eventually what we discovered was that the young girls were leaving school when they started going through puberty, because they then started menstruating and they needed to have sanitary facilities to be able to care for themselves. The schools without them were forcing young girls to go into the bushes, where they were then victims of rape or of humiliation. So then they just stopped going to school. She went back to her newsroom, she reported a television documentary in great detail, and then she built a cell phone application so that people who watched this on the television news and now got very angry that because of something stupid like infrastructure, entire generations of girls' futures were being stolen. Now the parents who got angry about that were then able to check on their cell phone about, is my daughter's school going to be one of these? Who do I write to? So they could find information about themselves. Secondly, they could use the cell phone application to then say, well, who do I write a petition to? So they could then immediately, with their cell phone, using a text message, sign a petition and send it to the government official responsible for their district. In addition to which, it then said that they could organize with other parents from their district who were also upset. And as a result of that one story and documentary, on the problem that it's been for years people have been ignoring, the government changed the laws. And they're now starting to build sanitary facilities at all schools in Kenya. In Argentina, you have census information. So you have the same kind of information that this young Kenyan reporter worked with. You also have statistics on performances at school, on health and so forth. And if it's not available from your own government, that kind of information is available from agencies like the World Bank and the the UN, the World Health Organization. So the lesson is that even if the information you think is not available locally, sometimes you've got to look beyond your borders and find that information about the local situation.